So John chapter 4 records this story where Jesus is traveling through Samaria with his disciples, and they stop at a well, and then his disciples go into town to get some food. And while Jesus is there alone, a Samaritan woman comes by. And then Jesus says to her, "Could you help me get some water?" And to us in the 21st century, that doesn't really stand out as that important. But if we're going to properly interpret the Bible, we have to understand its cultural context, which is that Jewish people did not talk to Samaritan people. In fact, most of them wouldn't even travel through Samaria. They'd just go around because they didn't want to interact with them. So understand that Jesus, the Jewish celebrity, had every cultural reason to snub this Samaritan nobody. But he talks to her. In fact, he ends up having an entire conversation. And I just want to underscore that Jesus had a habit of hanging out with those who were social outcasts. He loved the tax collectors and the sinners, and he even touched a man who had leprosy, someone who probably hadn't been touched by a human in years. So I don't know about you, but I definitely fail to act like Jesus, who had so much love for the outsiders. The example of Jesus is challenging enough, but there is so much more to this story. You see, in the first century, wells were kind of like coffee shops. They were a great place for a first date. And in the Old Testament, Isaac and Jacob and even Moses all met their wives at wells. Now, it's obvious that the woman that Jesus is talking to isn't there to meet someone or even socialize, because she's there at the hottest time of the day, the time when the fewest people would actually be there. And it comes out in her conversation with Jesus that she's actually an outcast in her own community. She's been married and divorced, not once or twice, but 5 times. And the guy that she's living with now, she's not getting married to, because honestly, she's been so hurt, she thinks, what's the point? So Jesus is a master communicator, and he decides to draw from their surroundings to say something important to this woman. He says, hey, you come to this well every day and you get water and it satisfies you for a little bit, but then you have to keep coming back. And you've kind of been doing the same things in your life. You've been going to metaphorical wells that aren't satisfying you. But I want to give you something that will satisfy you completely. I want to give you living water. And that woman's like, yeah, give me that. Then I don't have to come to the well every day. And he's like, no, you're missing the point. I'm the Messiah that you've been waiting for, and I want to give you living water that will satisfy your soul completely by connecting you to the living God. You see, in this story, like so many, Jesus' love and compassion for this woman is connected to who he is and what he wants to do for us as a savior. So here's today's question. Are you going to metaphorical wells in your life that aren't satisfying you? Thanks so much for watching Truth Snack. I just wanted to point out that there's lots of social media options where I throw out thoughts and pictures and resources. So I want to encourage you to check that out, and I'll see you next week.